In my video on Final Fantasy VII Remake, I left it feeling mixed. I loved the gameplay, music, and story, but had mixed feelings on the new direction the series is going. But I finished it more than excited for what's gonna happen next, and reading some of the comments on my last video only made me more excited. So I booted up Rebirth the second it launched on PC, and I wasn't ready for the emotional rollercoaster that is this game. So this is where I ask, what even was Final Fantasy VII Rebirth? Major spoilers ahead. My favorite part of Remake was the combat. I thought it was the absolute peak of Final Fantasy combat, but Final Fantasy VII Rebirth makes it look like a crappy mobile game. Going into the game for the first time was a shock, because of how much faster and more fluid the gameplay is. It's still the same framework as before. You have free control of all your active party members, performing basic attacks to build up ATB, which can be spent on spells and stronger attacks. But now materia from the first game, such as Deadly Dodge and Parry, are built into the characters. Cloud has been given a new dodge attack, which utilizes his blade beams for long range attacks. Then if you hold down the attack button, he'll jump towards the enemy for aerial attacks. Before, fighting in the air was painful. Your control was very limited. Now you're basically in the air more than on the ground. Once you're up, you can stay in the air basically forever. Now being able to dodge and even use skills marked with this symbol. Burning ATB will now build new charges, which can be used on my favorite new feature, synergy skills. Basic synergy skills you can just throw out whenever you want, with no cost by holding down the block button. They are different depending on which character you're controlling and which characters you have in your party. Cloud with almost any other character can block any incoming projectiles for minimal damage, but you won't take any damage from it. Aerith can imbue Cloud's sword with magic for a slam attack, and Tifa can call upon others to throw her into the air. There's too many of these for me to talk about, but word of advice, use them. They are free and will give you the upper hand. But what about the synergy charges I was talking about? These are used for much more powerful limit break-like moves. To use these, you have to burn ATB with 2 characters to build up charges, which can be spent on massive moves that grant both character buffs such as refocus, which just like the first game gives you 3 ATB slots, infinite MP for a short amount of time, which is really good if you use it at the right time, and increase the stagger timer. You can also upgrade your limits. In the other games, you upgrade your limit breaks like you would any other skill. You unlock each limit 1 level at a time, and once it's upgraded, you have it. But you can only use the limits of your currently equipped level. In Rebirth, it's completely different, and in my opinion, way better. You always start battles with limit level 1, but doing certain synergy attacks with characters such as Red 13 or Aerith will upgrade your limit to the next level. You will still have to earn limit level 3 with each character with the new folio system, which basically replaces the weapon upgrade system from the first game, where you can spend SP on stat boosts, abilities, and new synergy skills. The story is a direct continuation of Remake, starting right after the first game ends, with the party in the town just outside of Midgar Calm, where Cloud tells the story of how the famous war hero Sephiroth lost his mind. Just like Remake, the game follows the same plot points, but this time around there's so much more in between. The flashback alone has gone from 20 minutes to about 2 hours, and I can't say all the added stuff is good, or needed. Just like Remake, they add a lot of bloat in sections. In the flashback, you go from fighting enemies as Sephiroth to slowly vacuuming up Marco leaks so that a door will open, to an epic boss fight, oh my god, to vacuuming up more Marco, but Sephiroth won't get out the fucking way. The pacing is so much better than Remake at least. This game covers the entire rest of disc 1 of the original, so we finally have access to the world map, and it's the coolest feature in this game. It's not just an area to go from A to B anymore, it's a full-on open world. Technically it's open zone, but the transitions are so well done you wouldn't even notice while playing. You can travel from places like, let's say, Gungaga, all the way to just outside Midgar, without ever losing control of your character. Just like in the original, you'll lose access to certain areas as the story goes on, but by the end, you'll have all the means to get back, such as a ferry in Junon that'll take you to Costa del Sol at any time you want, not just that one time, and the tiny Bronco, which you get through meeting Sid in the story, which is a plane that you can actually fly for a bit, with limited control. But after a while, and you recruit more members to the company, the load will get too much, causing the plane to crash, but you can use it as a boat and have full control of it. Piloting the tiny Bronco across the ocean and seeing Junon come into view was one of the coolest video game moments I've ever had. It was the moment I realized how well connected this game world is, and how it's kinda unfair to just call it open zone. Also, I never realized how close Midgar and Junon were. As I said, the world is broken into regions, named after the main town you'll find there, with their own biomes and activities, being Junon, Corel, Cosmo Canyon, Gungaga, Nebel, and the Grasslands. Also, the Meridian Ocean is technically classed as a region, and it's fully explorable, but there's not really a lot to do there. Pretty much just a pirate side mission. Each region has various activities to complete for materia, labeled region intel, which are given to you by everyone's favorite character, Chadley. People hate Chadley in this game, but for me, I only kind of hate him. At least with Chadley, you know when he's gonna start yapping. You can always skip and fast through it. The same can't be said for Mai, which is an AI girlfriend Chadley made himself because he was probably lonely from everyone bullying and hating him. With Mai, there's there's no option to shut her up. She's in charge of the combat assignments across the map, which are stronger variations of enemies you have to defeat while completing certain objectives. Mai will tell you every single little detail about them while you're meant to be focusing on fighting them. And even once she's done, she'll sing to herself and just be generally annoying. Even Chadley finds her annoying, and this motherfucker made her. The region intel doesn't appear on the map on its own. You have to find and activate towers around the map like it's 2014. I've seen other people say these are some of the best out of the generic open world towers, but I disagree. They're fine. Not really any challenge to them. Just show up, defeat enemies, climb up, press button. Only the content tied to Chadley is found by the towers. Side quests you can just stumble onto, or find a job board in towns like The Witcher. And chocobo stops, which you find when the real baby chocobo leads you to it. After repairing it, you can rest there if you have cushions. Sometimes you can find owls that will lead you to intel such as life springs. You can scan to unlock region lore. They'll also lead you to divine intel, which you can activate to weaken the summon of the area's boss fight in Chadley's battle sim. The game asked the question, how much game is too much game? They shoved so much shit in this game. I went into Rebirth wanting to do absolutely everything because I got all the achievements in Remake, but looking at how much stuff is in this game kinda overwhelmed me. The amount of mini games alone, some fleshed out enough to be their own games. The list of mini games are Queen's Blood, Dolphin Racer 64, Fort Condor, Frog Guys, Toy Story Mania, Rocket 13 League, Piano. War Robots! Chocobo Racing, that one Lego Star Wars level. The Box Smash one, which is actually really good now. Catch that Moogle! 3D Brawler. And a ton more I probably forgot about or missed because there's a lot. Side missions are a lot better in this game than they were in Remake, with better stories and amazing interactions with party members. Also giving much more worthwhile rewards, such as items, materia, and even sometimes new content such as minigames. Most side missions have a character's face on it, which means that that character will be an involved part of it, and you'll deepen your bond with them, which basically just controls who you go on a date with later. I like it because if you have a preference for who you want on the date, you don't have to simp endlessly and put down every other character at all times, since you can see your progress. But it also seems kinda pointless most of the time. If it does anything else, please let me know in the comments. The longest side mission by far is the Gilgamesh Proto-Relic one. This one took hours and hours. Each region has 4 missions tied to it, and these are varied depending on the region. These are all good, but some are kinda tedious, like the Cactuar one, and the Gears and Gambits one. The mission kind of frustrated me towards the end. Not the difficulty, but by the amount you have to do. Once you collect all the proto-relics, you unlock Gilgamesh Island. But before fighting him, you have to unlock and fully upgrade each of the new summons. Then once you've done that, you have to fight them again as a pair, which wasn't as frustrating as I thought it would be at first. The summons seem to be weaker than when you fight them alone, so this only took me about 40 minutes to do. Then once you've done all of that, you'll be able to fight Gilgamesh, which makes the length of the missions worth it. By the music alone. It's a remake of Battle at the Big Bridge from Final Fantasy V, and it's sexy. All the music is. Every area has its own theme that dynamically swaps to a battle version every time a fight starts. My personal favorite is the new version of Hollowed Skies, which is new to the remake series, and acted as the theme of the first game, which makes me wish there was more to do in the Midgar area, because it's that good. I wrote most of this video listening to this song on loop. It's really good, and the battle version is amazing. All the zone themes are. This is now my favorite video game score of all time. They nailed every moment, and most importantly, it respects the original work. I find in a lot of remakes or sequels to older stories use motifs and songs just for nostalgia reasons, without any respect of what those pieces mean. Here they use every song so fucking well. The song from the original, Listen to the Cries of the Planet, is the main theme for the Temple of the Ancients now, and it's really well done. Everyone who's played the original has this song etched in their minds. The song that leads you to Aerith for the last time. Now you can hear the ticks of a clock as you descend closer to the unknown, terrified of what's coming next, wanting it to happen for the sake of your favorite story, but also scared of it. You lost her once. Maybe this time it can be different. My favorite Final Fantasy VII track is Genova, and they do not disappoint with this game. You fight her twice, and both times has a different version of her theme. The first is really weird and different, and I love it. And the intro is so fucking good, but that's nothing compared to the music for Genova Lifeclinger. It opens like any other version, but instead it starts with Aerith's theme, just like the original, which plays for the entire first phase of the fight, slowly being taken over by Genova, which is genius. This fight is an emotional roller coaster. You start kinda confused by what's happening, the scene is very hard to process on a first viewing. Then that confusion is replaced with sadness as Aerith's theme comes in, but with a hint of Genova, which only makes you angry and a little hyped up, wanting to murder this monster. There's now 3 different versions of this song in these games, and each is a perfect evolution of the last. The first version is an introduction to it that takes its time to build. The second is a kinda horrific and tense battle theme. And the third is full blast, emotional, let's kill this goddamn motherfucking alien. All the boss fights are really good. There's a lot more, and they even add completely new ones that weren't in the original. Like Rufus Shinra returning from the first game, or the dozens of optional open world bosses. Everything I said in my remake video applies here, except my one main complaint about them is solved. My complaint was that your strongest moves could be wasted if an enemy activates a cutscene. But now if an enemy is staggered, they'll stay staggered until the timer goes down. Sometimes the health bar will still say no, and they won't take damage, but you're still able to raise the pressure gauge while they're in their state, so it's not nearly as annoying. Limit breaks are also way more common now, so there's less frustration when missing them. For most of the game, my party was Cloud, Aerith, Tifa, but then I discovered someone more violent and more powerful than you can possibly imagine. I discovered the power of
The one and only Yuffie!
Cool. She's mostly like she was in Remake, but she has a new move called Doppelganger, which changes everything. With it, she'll create a clone of herself that will do as she does with a slight delay, like Virgil. The part where this gets crazy is, it'll cast the spells you do, which means 2 Arga spells for the price of 1. But where it gets even crazier is if you pair her with Aerith and place her in an arcane ward, you can now cast 4 Arga spells for the price of 1. It's crazy. She can also do all of her moves from Remake, like the poof goes to Ninja and Bashment. When I realized that she can cast 4 Arga spells, I instantly replaced Tifa for her. Yuffie's personality is oh so perfect here in my opinion. She's the right amount of annoying. Not so annoying that you hate her, and she's actually funny in most of her scenes. Red 13 is completely playable now. He's the parry master. Parry enemies to feel his unique ability Vengeance Mode, which increases his attack and dodge speed, which also gives him access to Siphon Blade, which steals HP from enemies. Red is good because he can fill basically any role you want, kinda like Cloud. Everyone's favorite character, Cait Sith, is introduced in this game, and he's less annoying and hateable in this game than he is in the original, and he's actually kinda fun to play now, but I still hate him. There's still some chance involved with his gameplay, but now he's mainly about managing between himself and his Moogle. You need to spend an ATB charge to summon your Moogle, then you can hop on and off it at will. The Moogle has unique abilities depending on how much you charge its unique ability. The Moogle will attack on its own when you're off it, so I spent most of the time off it until I need one of its abilities. You can dodge off the Moogle pretty far, so it'll be useful to call it in just to throw yourself away and use it as a distraction. Cait Sith is my least played character because he comes in pretty late, and once the story wrapped, I played on chapter 13 mostly, where he is unavailable because he's fake as fuck. But there's a very long section where you're stuck as him that I hate in the Shinra Manor. It's only like an hour long, but I kept dying because I'm a dumbass. They have these super gimmicky throwing controls where you have to hold down the top of the touchpad then pull back like it's fucking Angry Birds. I'm on PC, so I tried the mouse controls, and they're somehow worse. I think the touchpad controls are the best way to go. I feel sorry for people who only have Xbox controllers. At least the chapter redeems itself at the end with Vincent motherfucking Valentine. Now voiced by Matt Mercer, who has the sexiest voice on the planet, and he was the best choice for the former Turk. Sadly, you can't play as Vincent in this game, but he's introduced basically right at the end, so I don't really blame them too hard. Just makes me super excited for part 3. Vincent gets his own boss fight, and as always, the music goes insanely hard, my lord. And his regular theme is great in this as well. Sid Highwind is also in this game. Kinda like Vincent, he's not playable yet, but he's nothing like the character from the original. He's weirdly nice and upbeat, unlike the original where he's pissed off and cynical and swearing all the time. They also skip out on his backstory for now. He just appears in the story, just literally. It's kind of weird, but it's cool to see him, and I can't wait to see what they'll do with him in part 3. Barrett in this game feels so much better to play and have in your party. I streamed my first first session of this game, and someone suggested that I give Barrett materia that lets him use his unique ability while I'm not controlling him, and that's a massive game changer. He gets a ton of free ATB. The moment I equipped that, I never took it off. Barrett's backstory is explored in this game, but the stuff with Dine specifically kinda feels soft compared to the original. The original is really dark, but I still got more emotional than I did playing the original. From the amazing acting from John Eric Bentley. All the actors are amazing here. Cody Christian as Cloud, Brianna White as Aerith, Britt Barron as Tifa. Everyone is amazing. This game made me emotional a lot. My little heart couldn't take it. A lot of the emotion from this game is mainly from knowing the other games though. Like visiting Zack's village and seeing Aerith worry about him. Or Aerith's song in the Gold Saucer, which acts as her goodbye to everyone. Aerith in this game is just as good as she was in Remake. She's still basically a portable turret, except now you don't have to micromanage her as much. Now her Tempest move is tied to holding down the attack button. Now her unique ability is to teleport back to her wards. So if she decides to run around when you're not controlling her, you can easily get back, but she seems to stay still a lot more. From what I can tell, she only moves when she can't do damage from her position. She has a new ward called Radiant, which makes her even more powerful, letting her shoot these giant beams of death that go through and pressure the shit out of enemies. Aerith very rarely left my party. She's so good. Tifa is another character who is amazing in this game. I never liked in the original how she knew something was up with Cloud, and knew he wasn't in Nibelheim 5 years ago, and never said anything to anyone for fairly selfish reasons. Understandable reasons, don't get me wrong, but still selfish. In Rebirth, she's still mostly quiet, because that's just her character, but she does small things like opening up to Aerith about it, and poking a little at Cloud, trying to get him to question himself. But all that is used against her by Sephiroth, who in this game is trying to manipulate Cloud into thinking Tifa is a Genova illusion. I made fun of Sephiroth a lot in my Remake video, but I'm happy to say that they made him really cool and scary again. He's such a fuckhead in this. He shows up a lot less than in Remake, but the impact he leaves each time is so much bigger. He has a hold on Cloud's mind, manipulating him like a literal puppet, and it's kinda terrifying each time. This is gonna sound a little bit goofy and fucked up, but I'm really excited to see Cloud's mental breakdown in part 3. By the end of this game, he's in an even worse state than he was at the same time in the original. Cloud loses it. Through the final dungeon, the Temple of the Ancients, Cloud acts weird, quieter than usual, acting like a dick to everyone. He's acting like he does at the very start of the first game. This whole late section really disturbed me. Cloud is violent and cold, moving and speaking like Sephiroth, pulling Cloud towards the black materia. Then you fight one of the most stressful fights in gaming history, the Demon Gate. I'm not claustrophobic, but this fight kinda got to me. Like, it freaked me out. It gave me the shivers. A monster on the wall in front of you that slowly closed the room in onto you. Halfway through, another one appears on the wall behind you. All the while, Cloud is laughing. I had to take a break after I finished this section. It really kinda got to me. The boss fight, the story, the ending cutscene. It was kinda stressful to sit through. Maybe it's because I had already been playing for 6 hours straight at that point, but it was kinda a lot. Zack is in this game. I said in my Remake video how this worried the shit out of me, because it could have ruined Cloud's Who Am I arc in the original, which is such a big moment. Aerith just died like 20 minutes before, and you're just kicked when you're already down. The emotional peak of the story in my opinion. I'm happy to say they keep that all intact. Kinda. Basically, Cloud is able to remember Zack, but now he remembers Zack completely wrong. He knows Zack died, but he thinks the infantryman that got swept away and killed in the river in Mount Nebel was him. In my opinion, that's a little dumb, and I would have rather they kept Zack unknown until the same moment in the original. But what can you do? At least they tried. Zack is kind of playable. There's a lot of sections where you play as him in his world, but most of them are just walking sections. But they act as a cool what if. He's also playable in the final boss, where he teams up with Cloud to take on Sephiroth, which I kinda wish didn't exist, but I'd be lying if it didn't make my dork brain happy. It's just cool seeing him and Cloud fight together as brothers. Zack's gameplay is very simple. You press triangle to level up your moves to make them more powerful, similar to Yuffie's Bashment. His limit break is Angeal's one from Crisis Core, which is really cool. There's a lot of Crisis Core love in this game. The whole Gaga section is expanded massively, and a lot of it is just remembering Zack. Sisney from Crisis Core also appears, who now made her full residence in Gaga after Crisis Core. She's still a Turk, which is shown in one of the side missions, but it's still nice. So overall, I'm satisfied with what they did with Zack. They put him in while still keeping the integrity of the original story. Though it's not perfect, it's pretty cool fan service. The ending to this game is arguably easier to follow than the first game, but also even more up to interpretation. So Aerith dies. I know, spoiler. But this game gets really weird. Everything happens like normal, but then Cloud catches Sephiroth's sword, deflecting it away from her, only to pan down the sword and see it covered in blood. I have two ideas for this part. One is that this never happened at all, and is all in Cloud's head. The second idea I have is that Aerith has to die, is embedded into fate. Aerith falls into Cloud's arms as the white materia is lost, or like the original. Sephiroth laughs as Cloud holds her in his arms. Then all the brain fucky-wucky effects happen. I think this is Cloud just losing it, unable to process Aerith's death. You see Cloud's lips moving, but you hear nothing. I think everything that happened, and everything that was said in the original happened, but Cloud can't process her loss. He imagines her waking up to comfort him. I know for a fact this isn't real, because when the other characters arrive, they see her, eyes closed, and the floor dripping with blood. Aerith is gone. She'll no longer laugh, cry, or get angry. Everyone sees this but Cloud. I mentioned this before, but the way the music moves in this scene is so fucking good. When the fight with Jenova begins, everyone's limit break is full except Cloud. Everyone is pushed over the brink from losing Aerith, but Cloud thinks she's okay. He just has to kill this thing and then he can be back with her. Kill this thing and everything will be okay. After a long battle with Jenova, then Sephiroth, you're met with one final stand. Cloud versus Sephiroth. But then out of nowhere, Aerith arrives. I actually don't have an answer for what's happening here that I'm confident on. My first thought was that it was the Aerith from the other world that gives Cloud the white materia, but no, she died. So then I thought it was just Cloud losing it, but that doesn't make sense either, because Sephiroth sees her. So then I thought it could be Jenova, because of this line.
What do you think of this battle? Just a fever dream.
But that doesn't make sense. So I'm stumped. Give me your ideas in the comments. I want to see how you saw this. After fighting this man for no joke 40 minutes, and in 3 different dimensions, you're able to make this motherfucker take a knee for a moment. When it's all over, the party go to lay Aerith to rest. But Cloud picks her up, asking her to wake up, and she does. But this whole scene doesn't actually happen outside of Cloud's head, because while Cloud's walking up, everyone is gathered around, but they all fade as he picks her up. The next scene is everyone silent around the pool, where they laid her to rest in the original. I think that happened, but Cloud is so disconnected from her death that we don't see it. Everyone is in silence, accepting and mourning her loss, but Cloud is calm, just looking out over the water, Aerith sitting next to him. You can tell by the way he looks at her that he knows she's gone deep down but refuses to accept it. Cloud's mental state is so fucked at the end of this game. I can already almost see how upsetting his breakdown's gonna be. There are some things that make this theory questionable in the very last cutscene, where it's hinted that she is communicating with Cloud from the livestream, and Red even senses her. And I don't think you're wrong for believing that theory either. I think it's purposely written to seemingly have multiple possible conclusions, without either of them really being definitive. But right now, I think I believe the Cloud not being able to process her death theory, because I think it makes a much more interesting story. It makes Aerith's death heartbreaking all over again. Aerith's death is the most sad I've ever been over a game, and Aerith is my favorite party member, partly from how much her death hurt me. Very few games have made me feel like that, so it's a part of the game I feel a little protective of. But overall, I think Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is an amazing game. I still kinda think I would have preferred just a flat remake of the story, similar to Resident Evil 2 or Silent Hill 2, but I can now proudly say that I am sold on the new story. I'm excited to see how they finish with Remake Part 3. Speaking of Resident Evil, my next video will be on the original Resident Evil from 1996, so look forward to that. But for now, what did you think of Rebirth? What are your theories on the ending? I want to hear everything you have, and I'll see you all in a minute.